Hey guys, Cole here. So as you can see, there is a little something that might be coming up. I'm not quite sure. Uh, it's more so related with Umfra. This is a Bristol dirt track edition built by, I'm not sure if I should reveal the name quite yet, but I'll just say that I've driven for them in the past. This game is public, but I'm not trying to make it fucking hyperactive. So far, he's got a couple cars getting set up for testing. Got a pro stock car. We have a modified. There is a late model and several different types of cup cars. I'm not quite sure what this means yet. I have a feeling that this will probably be a race, but I'm not sure if there will be some sort of event for these. However, just for the sake of me wanting to try it out, I actually want to try these things out. I did try out the map a little bit earlier, only in this car, and I noticed quite a few things I don't notice in most other dirt tracks. So, anyways, you're gonna get going, and if you notice right away, there is actually a little bit of a need for counter steer. You guys really cannot see that, but it's I genuinely have to press the right key quite a bit, which is not something very normal with these types of cars. Also noticing that was a turtle that I hit, which actually does exist on the real Bristol. Probably would not kill you that hard, but still would not make your day too good. So that's actually a small little feature that I noticed, and probably is going to be used more extensively throughout this corner and the other corner. So I find that really interesting. Uh, I'm not sure what to think initially, other than it's loose, but not in a bad way. Um, Generally, most tracks I race on tend to be a bit on the tighter side, and I'm not too, I would say, good at loose tracks. But for some weird reason, I feel like I could actually probably achieve something at this track. This is Bristol's Dirt Nationals layout. Uh, Unlike the actual track, you'll notice that there's currently safer barriers that have been mounted. I think that safer barriers were mounted just because he didn't bother taking them out yet. Um, I wouldn't blame him. It's a lot of work to remove these. I mean, he probably knows the way around. And here I'm crashing. It's a very difficult track already. I can tell there's going to be quite a few crashes, and it will not be your typical easy race like Derby. Derby is a much shorter track, being a quarter mile. This is a bit over half a mile, I believe, and it's generally tighter, even though when it gets loose, some drivers say that it does get very loose. I'd say this is actually probably looser than Derby is when it's at its darkest. Maybe this will be how it races once it's slick. Although personally, I actually would prefer this to be how it's like when it's. This is actually, I think, how I would personally prefer it to be at the start, and then it gets somewhat slicker bit by bit. I don't think that it should be one of those tracks that wears down slowly, because if it or too quickly either. But I don't think it should be one of those tracks where the race will not have any effect at all. And, oh, there's another use for those. I don't think these are supposed to be safer barriers on the inside, but they could. I could see a use from now after that little incident. That is 2 or 3 crashes already. I can tell that I'm not being too good. So maybe the last time I drove a late model, remember I won the race I was in. So I guess in a way it kind of shows that this is not exactly an easy track by any means. You actually might see a couple other Bristols I've been on, and actually I think it's throughout this turn where I ended up encountering a glitch that launched my car all the way up into the grandstands, which thank God that I'm a road racer, not an actual racer, or not only would I be dead, but probably be the next Le Mans disaster. I mean, then again, this is Roblox, not actual racing. Probably would not happen in real life. Actually, I think it's due to that specific incident. I mean, I don't actually think so, but I think that due to some sort of incidents, the catch fences themselves seems to have been changed a little. That's a distraction. I'm going to go up to 25 laps. I'm going to just focus real quickly. I'll let the engine sound play. Actually, let me slow down. Okay. Okay, from this point I'm going to practice on actually driving instead of being an absolute dog shit. Right. I'm actually quite embarrassed with how I'm driving at the moment. Maybe if I just practice a little more I would get better, but, you know. Counter steer, okay. So actually, I could probably take this flat out. Try this. I'll try to take it flat out this turn. I don't want to be down there. Heck. So it's incredibly difficult in these cars, once again, as I've said. Probably not that hard once you're actually used to the course itself. But, hence I've probably gotten only 20 laps total on this track so far in practice. And I am trying to push hard, as if I'm actually racing. Not the best idea, I'm just trying to learn the track, and just the way that I roll. Got a lot of counter steer necessary. Quick time. So dirt script has not been put onto this track yet. So again, as I suggested, I think that whomever has made this game, I suggest that you probably shouldn't. I honestly want this to be what the top layer of the dirt layer should be, instead of it letting it be the top, letting it be the bottom, because I think these are conditions that would be perfect to start off with, and then slowly get a little bit looser and looser, which would allow more middle and top lane inputs and lines. A lot of counter steer, a lot of counter steer, a lot of counter steer. But, well, that's gonna kill my lap. It's not gonna kill me at least, so I'll give it that. Alright, gonna do 3 more laps and then we can pull off and try out. I think I'll try out the street stock nets. Probably should have started off with that in the first place. I just like the late models. Say, drive really well. I never actually really raced street stocks before, which is a bit weird given that I kind of, I guess, in a way, stepped up the ladder a little bit too quickly for what I have done. I mean, any other day it's just Roblox racing, so it doesn't matter. I mean, actually, I'll give you guys a little story time. I'll go to 30 laps. So, I guess a little story time about myself. This type of racing, late model stuff, was the first actual form of road racing other than media racing that I did. And it was something I completely learned. I learned it myself. I saw this game that was made by George Dev called Dirt Track Racing or something like that. And I would just, have to spend a little bit of time practicing it because I had seen dirt racing in real life at my local track. I just never never really took too much care into it until that moment when I saw that game. When I tried it, I knew right away that I was really bad at it, but I found it for some reason kind of enjoyable. So I just kept on practicing and practicing and practicing, and got better and better. One day I saw that one day I saw that there was a server for the game on Discord. So I had a Discord, so I decided to join that Discord. It was George's server, I believe was the server, and in that server, George was trying to find some people to drive for him for TDS LMS, his late months. And I was like, hey, this is a cool series, I want to try it out. So instead of looking for anyone else in it, I was like, I'm gonna drive for George. And he was hosting a challenge where you had to set the quickest time in Knoxville. So, you know, out of like probably 8 other drivers, or I don't know, maybe 10, I'm not quite sure how many were involved, but I know that quite a few people were involved with the competition. I mean, I wouldn't say a huge amount, but a pretty decent amount was. And out of devotion, I just kept on trying and trying and trying. And I started off being really poor. I probably was maybe top 7 or something like that, if that. I was setting like 20s and 19s when I should have been setting 18s, I believe. And it took me a while, but eventually I was finally able to set 18-second times. There's only one person that's beating me. It was a guy that already had a ride. That was the guy that won the last Pro Stock race, which was at Wonderland. That was at Austin 25M. He didn't accept it, so the next person was me and this other guy named Bad Boy Bus, otherwise known as Bill Krebs. You guys might know about him. If you've watched my videos, you might see him. Him and myself clashed. We crashed into each other. I crashed into him. He's crashed into me. At the end of the day, though, we're pretty chill with each other. Just on track, we can be kind of idiots. But we set times that were pretty much so close that we were basically tied. I think I was a little bit faster in the end, but George decided to just hire us both because we're both recent drivers. So I accepted it, and I became into TDS driver since then. And I've been a GTM driver since that day that he hired me, or quote unquote hired, I guess. I would just say he just let me on his team, and I'll go with that. You know, it's a good team in all honesty. You know, sometimes George might say stuff that might not sound too bright, but I can tell that, you know, deep down that guy is he's about as wise as it gets when it comes to something, especially with setup. I wouldn't say he's for the faint of heart or for the snowflake, but for driver, he's a really good team manager. That's ow. That's front left. So I guess that's kind of my story that nobody asked for about how I got into dirt racing on Roblox and why I went from being a road course racer to a dirt racer. Which, by the way, I still do road course stuff when I can, but I personally prefer to do dirt racing right now. I really enjoy to do dirt race. I enjoy road course quite dearly, actually. I love to do it just as much as I love to do dirt racing. However, due to circumstances, I know that realistically it's much harder for me to get into road course racing, given where I live, in comparison to being a oval racer, specifically dirt ovals. So, anyways, that's a late model. My thoughts were, it was a really loose car, but it was really fun to drive. So up next we got the street stocks, which I'll spend a few laps on. I'll probably spend 15 laps, not instead of that 41. I've never raced these. I've raced pro stocks only once, but never these. And I actually really wanted to, but I just never, I could never find the ride. So I apologize if I'm absolute crap at these, but I'm gonna just try them. They seem to be a lot easier to drive, but they are not good at turning around in straights. Again, a lot of that counter steer is definitely necessary on these scenes. But once you hit the top speeds, it's clear that turning it's a little bit tough. Yeah, just keep on hitting that wall. I think maybe that might be an issue with the torque or the turn speed, or maybe even the friction of the tires. Again, it drives pretty good on this track though, otherwise I think it's just the setup of the cars themselves is an issue. Once you get on the walls, you're also a little bit stuck there, it also seems. So, hard to move around the straight, which could be troublesome if you're racing against people. Because if they're, if they naturally lean this way or this way, you can't really change your line in straightaway, which I see that as a potential issue. But that's just me. I don't command this series. I don't know. I'm just suggesting stuff. Seems to want to run an inside lane so far, but it's hard to run any line on this thing because it's very unpredictable in the ways that it drives on the straights. On the turns, it's pretty fine actually, but again, as I say, on those straights, it's not fun. It's not a fun thing to do in the streets. More so terrifying. I was gonna go this way, but I'll just go this way. I believe this car is based off of a 1980s muscle car or something like a Buick or maybe GMC. I really don't know. I don't know. I'm not the biggest expert on 1970s or 1980s muscle cars because not much is known about them. In all honesty, I mean, like yes they do, but like nobody really cares about them, except for a small group of people. Although I do believe that this car in particular, if it was Buick, it's a Buick, it was a Reginald or something like that. They were apparently, even though they're powered by a turbocharged V6 or something like that, maybe supercharged, I don't quite remember. Apparently this thing was pretty peppy for its time. It could show up a lot of cars, and it just looked like a boxy sedan, you know? And at the end of the day, it was actually a pretty quick car to show people up. But that's gonna be it. Oh, I was gonna hit the turn there. Not too much to say about this car. I don't know how the racing with this would look. I'm expecting though that, I'm expecting that as it is with this current setup, there will probably be a lot of division lag incidents on the straightaway, which might not be too good of a thing to have. So, anyways, I'm going to slow down and try out the Modify. I tried the Modified out for a single lap. Well, we'll see, dude. I don't know how it really drives right now, but I just know that it's very, very loose and very quick. But so far, I'm a really big fan of these tracks where you actually kind of have to counter steer a little. I don't know if you have to counter steer too much in this thing just because of how much torque it has. But it's a very quick machine. I'd say it's actually faster than the late model, at least on the corners. Maybe not on the straights. But I can tell on the corners, like this thing can take things flat out. But I was actually laying off in that corner, but I'll try this corner flat out. Oh, P1 already. Top, not gonna top. That was quite miserable, actually. It was a little bit embarrassing, if anything. Actually, more than miserable. I'd say that was embarrassing, if anything. Okay, so flat out might not be an option. maybe just a bit of letting up. Okay then, that's mildly difficult. This is probably definitely going to be the driver's car when they race these. If it's like this, I really love it already. And it will be a really huge challenge to drive, but I'm worried that there would probably be a lot of cautions just due to how incredibly difficult it is to drive these. It's funny because it's kind of a common misconception that driving around in small circles is easy, but it might be easy, but at the same rate, it's pretty difficult. Take it from a road course guy. Road course racing is that it might be difficult to be perfect at road course racing, but generally, I would say that road course racing, you don't have the unpredictability that you do get from dirt oval racing, and you also don't get those speeds. Well, you get those speeds, but you don't get those speeds with that much looseness. It's like for comparison, imagine taking these corners on wet asphalt. I know that's really not an accurate comparison whatsoever. They're probably much worse on wet asphalt. But having driven a dirt car twice in my life, being a variation of a USAC midget, I've not actually raced one. I was more so just taking a driving school. It's probably detuned from the usual 300, 350 to probably 250 to maybe 300, but that's probably not likely. But from my time driving, I've noticed in comparison to that versus go-karts, I have also driven road cars around, not on tracks, but on rather curvy roads. I've noticed that it's just much easier to make a mistake on a dirt car than it is in a road car, because everything just goes by so quickly and you're so close to everything. But also, again, as I said, the track surface is just so unpredictable, and even though like this is a static world, at the end of the day, these cars still have a very unpredictable way of driving that you don't really see that much with A chassis cars. You can, definitely you can, but I don't see this as much in, let's say, I'd say for comparison, something that would be comparable to this would be maybe GT3 racing or something like that. Maybe not GT3, then something that would be generally light but quite powerful. So maybe something like Formula 3. You try Formula 3. It's difficult, but easy enough for a 15-year-old to drive on, probably. So there's that. But again, the thing with those is that you rarely get much unpredictability. You know what turns are there. You've trained hours and hours and hours there, and you pretty much got the track correct. You might miss a bump or two that wasn't there, but on a dirt track, the track always changes. It changes lap from lap to lap. But you also see variations in the corners themselves that could cause difficulties. Like these transitions, I'm not a fan of these types of transitions because of how rough they are. The car gets practically airborne. Like, look, it's practically like a ramp. I'm gonna really crash hard there. I think that's an issue right there. Might be when you touch a wall and these things, they just die, but I don't know, maybe some people want that. Overall though, I like this. But it would not be an easy race. It would probably be a race that if you're going to let people win, you should probably only let people that you know are going to be good at it, or maybe just be stricter, because there's going to be many crashes if you have lesser experienced drivers, including myself. I think even I would struggle a lot in this class, but I see the fun in it. Alright, I'm going to pull off. So next up is Nascar. So They they probably drive slightly different car to car, and I'm pretty sure you could change the setup. I'm not sure where you can, but I'm gonna let that be. Now my car usually is a Toyota, so I'm gonna take a Toyota. The last car I drove here was actually a Chevy Camaro, and actually if you see that video in the last, I believe it's 5 laps ago, I was leading by a good second or two at least, and my car, for whatever reason, decided to break physics and fleeing very high into the air. You can tell already that this is a G chassis, judging by the noise and the moving wheels. And of course, distraction gets the best out of me, and I'm gonna spin it around, hit the wall. Let's just spin it around. Okay. It's got the new Roblox camera that's kind of meh. Drives like an asphalt oval, but with a lot of looseness in it. I'd say comparable to maybe driving Atlanta or Homestead even. There's a lot of grip issues. And I know that I should be taking that apex a little bit closer, but I'm just learning this car. I don't even know how to drive it properly yet. I know what lines to take, I just don't know how to get to those lines without spinning out. Maybe in 10 laps I'll get it. That is not the way. The thing with these cars, I definitely notice on transitions, is that transitions are their arch nemesis. They hate transitions. Like, this type of transition especially is not one that's good. But there's another one where it's like, where it kind of goes the other way. You know, like how normally they go towards the wall. Like, notice how that goes towards the wall? Yeah, normally it would go against. That's pretty bad. But when you have it to the left side, that gets even worse. Save. Alright, I'm gonna be silent for a little bit. Okay, sorry about that. I'm gonna continue speaking for the next 25 laps. Overall, very loose. Very, very loose. I personally would probably prefer if this was tank chassis rather than G chassis. I think even A chassis would be better, but I guess it could kind of see an appeal, but it doesn't really drive like a dirt car would. It drives more like very loose asphalt, very old asphalt. Or a dusty track, I guess would be more comparable. Maybe even like a wet concrete. Or, I wouldn't say wet. Wet would just be spinning out. It's not too hard to spin out. It's not too hard to spin out, but it's not too hard to keep it going. As I say, as I spin out and tap the wall, there would be $10,000 of damage probably. But yeah, I think it'd be more preferable if this was tank chassis instead of a G chassis, unless something was done to make the setup different to require some level of counter steer, or at least sideways action at the bare minimum. You don't really see much sideways on this, you see more so understeer. I'm seeing what looks more like understeer than oversteer. know that these things will probably be slower than the other cars, but I think there's a level where they just, you know, I don't know if driving a different chassis would be right. Or I don't know if driving a G chassis would be right for this. I'm able to tell it's a G chassis not only by noise, but the factor of the lack of, I'm pressing R right now, there's no mouse steer. There is, I'm going to press space. As you can see, space would normally make you jump out unless I was to press the arrow key. This is celebration mode, but I don't think it works right now. I think this is flip mode, this is first person camera, which is something that says quite a bit in this chassis. And generally you'll see a different type of GUI with tank chassis cars by the same, you know, general people. I'll give it 5 laps in this view. Yeah, you don't really need to kind of steer much in this anymore, so just let off and then full throttle. Maybe fat very low, and you just turn left. It's not as fun, I'd say, as in those dirt cars, or the cars that are made for dirt racing. Yes. Okay, good. Scenes don't really like to brake much either. You mostly just let off and then maybe brake a little. That's gonna require counter steering. Okay. That wasn't normal, that was probably just me making a mistake. Maybe I'm just driving this wrong, I'm not sure. I'm not the most experienced with G chassis. I probably had 10 races total in G chassis in comparison to probably 20, 30 plus G. Actually, no, I think I've driven at least 50 tank chassis races in my time. More than likely, I've driven much more than 50. And I would say that tank, you know, tank's just much funner. My internet connection has screwed me. I guess I was going to do more laps. I'm not sure how many laps that is now. But I've decided that I'll just cut the video off from here. I've showed pretty much everything I could anyway, so yeah. If you guys have anything you'd like to share, anything you want to talk about, go ahead. It's just gonna be it's just a chill video showing off a Bristol dirt track that may or may not host events. I'm not sure. So, have a good day, guys. I'm gonna upload this video, probably go to sleep. I don't think I need to really clip anything because, yeah. Alright, see you guys. If I could stop record, there we go.